I actually have not heard from Christian yet. I don't know if he's running late or if I'm going to be running this baby solo tonight, but we'll find out here soon enough if he ends up trying to come in. But in any case, tonight we have a treat for you. We are going to be talking about the event that involves a Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf at a Frisco track meet on April 2nd. There was a murder most foul. And so basically, here's the situation as I understand it best. Hey, Tanya, how you doing? I was going to ask if you could see Christian, but he isn't even here. I don't even know what happened to him. So anyway, the situation is this. So basically, on April 2nd, there was in Dallas, Fort Worth, there was this track meet where these kids got into a scuffle, right? Which normally wouldn't be an issue, except for one of them happened to have a knife on them, right? So basically, what happened is this: there was we finally got there he is. There he is.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to.
You made it.
I didn't want to come early. Sorry.
Oh no, you did. You did good. You did good. You did good. What's up? You doing all right?
Yeah, doing all right. Got a drink here. Ready to explain.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, mansplaining is men explaining. So we will explain some things to you today.
I'm glad that they definitely needed that explanation from a man about what mansplaining is. So so I was just getting into it. So basically, on April 2nd, in Dallas Fort Worth, basically there's this track event, right? And apparently they had these like tarps set up, like these like little tents set up for each team.
Yeah. They do that when there's one sun. They bring these tarps down.
Yeah, and I've done this before too. Yeah, I used to run track and cross country and everything. Very common thing to do to like separate each team, right? And it's usually etiquette that you don't mess with anybody else's team's tarp, but there is some socialization, right? My camera is blurry. Let me see if I can. Is that any better?
It's more your output. I don't think it's just. It's just maybe your internet feed is a little bit tight. Maybe that
you know what? It could just be my face because my face has been kind of blurry my whole life.
He does that for security reasons, so that so it's not a really good picture of him online.
Let me try. That's unfortunate. It might just be internet connection. It could also be yours, ironically. But can anybody else? Is anybody else having trouble seeing me? Anybody else in the chat? Let me see. I got to test one here. Yeah, it is running a little bit slow, right? But that's not bad. Anyway, we'll just keep plugging along. Hopefully, it's just a temporary internet issue. But yeah, I see what she's talking about. Actually, I don't know what's going on. Tell you what. Let me see. I don't know a good way.
Ooh, yeah.
But hopefully it'll just clear up.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. But anyway, I'll just try it. Yeah, it's definitely
everybody's a minor, and it's a hot day, so people are out doing their events, and they just leave their stuff, including their keys, their wallets, or phones, here, ostensibly to have a parent or somebody else watch over it, and so they know where it is.
Right. Man, it really is bad quality. What is going on with that thing?
Well, you are reporting from El Salvador, at the bottom of the ocean. Sorry.
I feel like YouTube hasn't let me do this even once correctly. Like not once. There's always at least some ridiculous. That's so frustrating. You know, like why can't they get their stuff together? Anyway, all right.
It'll fix, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. Anyway, we'll hope. Anyway, so so they're in there, the little segregated areas. There is some cross socialization, but usually it's like, you know, somebody comes over and says hi and then goes back to their team, right? It's not like they really get involved and try to integrate and like sit down in the chairs and stuff like that. And so this kid, Karmelo Anthony, not the really good basketball player, but just some random teenager.
With a K.
Yeah, with a K, right? He comes over and he sits down in one of the seats in somebody else's tent. And, teens will be teens, boys will be boys. There's a little bit of like machoism going on. And so, he's sitting there and somebody's like, hey, this isn't your tent. You need to leave. And he's like, well, I'm not gonna. So make me, and basically, like, he reaches into his bag and he's like, you can't make me leave. Touch me and see what happens. And then, of course, boys being boys and everybody being stupid, he goes up and touches him, right? Like to play that game. And then he's like, well, no, I meant punch me. You punch me and see what
Well,
happens.
he told them
And
he
so
had a
eventually the
knife.
guy,
He told them he had a knife, right?
he told him at night, right? So I'm under the, so there's differing reports, right?
Okay.
Some people say that he announced that he had a knife in advance. Some people say that he just had his hand in his bag and didn't say anything. But that's a little bit of witness. They need to get their story straight. But in any case, at some point in time, Austin tried to like escort him out, basically grabbed him and started to pull him out of the chair to walk him toward the edge of the tent. To which Karmelo Anthony responds by taking the knife out of the bag and then plunging it into his chest.
His heart.
Life. So, brief moment of silence for Austin. That is a terrible tragedy. My first instinct about this is we would not be hearing about this at all if the guy didn't have a knife at a track meet. Right? Like if you run the exact same scenario by, you run every and this is like a 3-minute scuffle, then they're pulled apart, and then, everybody goes about their merry life and everyone's happy. Maybe those kids get kicked out of that track event, like maybe, like if it's really bad and the schools are really tough, maybe they're kicking them out of track for the rest of the year, maybe.
Yeah.
But like without the deadly weapon, this whole thing is deadly weapon throws everything off. What's your thought? What are your first impressions?
I think the quality of your connection has deteriorated enough that we should try resetting it.
All right, let me see if man. All right, let me see if I can.
We have to cut it and restart.
Golly, that is so unfortunate. Let me see if I can cut. Let me see if there's a way I can just leave. No.
Okay, that's good. We're still here. Okay, so now I can. Can you hear me fine?
All right. Is that
yeah. The quality does better. It's a little herky jerky. Let's see where.
What do you guys think? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
The video is better. All right, now it's trying to pixelate.
Man, I don't know what is going on here.
Is it your router, maybe?
Yeah, I could try to. Let me try to reset that. Good grief.
Right. So my comment on this is it's always unfortunate with minors, and normally also I don't think the media would have reported on this if this was adults. But something about minors doing this, it adds a little more intrigue, and that there's a cross-racial event. If this was two people of the same race, this would not have hit the national news. So buying into that, immediately upon what they, the one narrative is that it was sort of, this is a stranger, this is a school rivalry situation. But the media narrative, what the elites want you to say, is this was racially motivated. That the only reason this escalated to conflict was because of the difference in Karmelo Anthony's race from that of the person asking him to leave, right? And ostensibly the school, the other school there. And so and what we've now heard is that one of his defenses that his attorney is going to make race and race relations a big part of his defense. Now, again, attorneys are supposed to do whatever they can for their client and to help, mount a rigorous defense. But the race card just feels at this point sort of unjustified. But as we've heard more details out of it, first Karmelo Anthony was incarcerated with a very high bond, $1 million bond. Once his story got out, his attorney was very eager to have the story got out. Then he was able to do a GoFundMe and raise over $500,000 for his defense. And now one of the things that there's been a lot of scrutiny of the family now because there are this is a national media story, and so there's some blowback on where this family is living. They've moved into a gated community, which I'm sure is for their own safety, as they now have and is probably wise for them. But they're renting a home in a gated community there in Texas. But people are now criticizing that, saying that they're using the money for that. We're talking about Karmelo Anthony, about the stabbing in Texas. The media narrative, the media elites want us to believe that this was racially motivated and is indicative of something else, and still saying that Texas is the same as it always was. I think we think this is immature, hot-headed teenagers in a situation where there should not have been a weapon if there was no weapon. But it has attracted media scrutiny. I think we should be very skeptical of larger narratives, even as the attorney will try to paint those narratives to make this person feel, to defend his client. It should not be race baited. At this point, right, I'm very skeptical of any sort of wider implications or any thought, especially now that this person has a well-funded defense. It's clearly not a case of white privilege, right? Karmelo Anthony's family was clearly well-to-do. They were living in a nice part of Fort Worth. There are lots of pictures at them that they were, he had a father at home. This was not like some inner city kid with no direction and no opportunities going up against some preppy kid. They were just rival high schools and strangers and had a conflict. Let's try to resist the urge to make this a race war, a race narrative, and being anything other than a tragic event that hopefully can be preventable by people not bringing deadly weapons to events like this.
Am I back?
You're better.
Am I back?
Yeah, try talking. You're back.
All right. Let's see. I hope this. Boy, I hope this works. Man, all right. So sorry about it. Yes, I agree 100%. Like this my first that. Part of what bothered me about it, and I'm going to do some self-embarrassment here. One of the things that really bothered me was that it was the conservatives that were like arguing over who exactly it is that's giving all this money. Right, like I saw this on X. There's this like giant controversy, and on Facebook, like it's like half of them were like, "Oh, this is about Karmelo Anthony this money," and the other half is like, "No, this is a bunch of white liberals that are also racist against white people who are paying this money." And I'm like, why are we why are we turning this into an identity thing when? Like the conservatives are supposed to be against identity politics, and here we are like playing into it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I that kind of bothered me. But so as far as the law is concerned, he's basically dead to rights. It's like there's basically no way to play. He's pleading not guilty, right? He's pleading self-defense.
Yeah, and his attorney's going to try to get this down to manslaughter if he's, but. Yeah, but there's things that are going to make it very difficult.
Right. Yeah. Having the knife. First of all, having the knife is like you're in bad shape, because even having the knife in that place is a rough, kind of a rough detail. But then there are all these other like little minute details that have been. Is it still mixing? Oh, are you guys able to see me and hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Your audio glitches occasionally still, but
Golly.
just power through.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. All right, but anyway, so yeah, so the other thing, one of the other elements is like as he's sitting there, like kind of like coaxing him into it. He's like, "Touch me and see what happens," punch me and see what happens. That's like a provocation, basically. Yeah. Like in the eyes of the court, the eyes of the law, they're going to see that as someone who's trying to escalate for the purposes of using the knife. Like he's basically like trying to goad him into an altercation so that he can pull the knife out and like hammer him. And then the other big thing that leaps out at me is like, these are both athletes, right? This is a track meet. They're both athletes. They're both fast. They have a lot of fast twitch muscles. They have good reaction time. That's the whole point of track, basically, is to have fast reaction time, fast twitch muscles, be able to react. And this guy gets stabbed in the chest. There's no like wound marks on his hands from trying to block it. So obviously he's not in a position where he's understanding that he's like squaring off against a guy with a weapon, right? There's never a situation like it's just not possible. Yeah. Right. Like the guy would have had to just like pull it out of nowhere and go boom, because otherwise he'd have blocked it, he'd have dodged, he'd have moved. It would have been like slightly off of the center mass. It's just not likely that it just comes out of nowhere. And then like he just gets a lucky shot after they're like standing there ready for each other. Like that's just not going to happen. So like it's obvious that his intent was to go to lethal force this entire time. Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe he might have just missed, right? Like it could have been a situation where it just like a million things happened at once. The stars aligned and Austin dodges into the wrong place and like kind of dodges into the blow instead of dodging away from the blow. But it's just like so many things. It would just the law is not going to see it that way. The law is going to see a kid.
This is not going to be manslaughter, even first degree manslaughter. It's going to be third degree homicide or second degree murder. And then the other thing about this, for a young man means like he's facing some serious time. So, I mean, he should have. I have no problem with people donating to his defense. Right. No problem with that. I don't care what color or their political persuasion. I have no problem with people donating to his defense. But he's up against it, and I know they're going to take this seriously because people they can't use race or things just as a get out of jail free card for this type of crime when a young man's life has ended because of conflict that did not justify deadly force. I mean, I hear what I had heard too in reading this report was that when he was in the station getting booked, he started asking some of the police officers, about self-defense. Could I plead self-defense? Yep. Can I do this type of stuff? He's going back and trying to spin it now, and everybody's seeing through the spin. And now, obviously, I mean that's what here the media. I think right now is our job is to just not make this a larger matter, a race riot thing, and kind of wait and let it happen. There probably will be a civil, wrongful death kind of claimant. Maybe that's the family trying to protect their assets as well, too. Which is unfortunate.
The other side to this, though, is like, right, I am wondering, like, we've got two guys, right, and then it's a tragedy for both of their lives, obviously. But the person who's dead is obviously the bigger tragedy, and yet he's getting far less money from people that are donating. And I'm wondering...
I didn't know there was even a donation set up for him.
Yeah, no, he's got something. He's got a couple 100,000 also, but it's like, it's not $500,000, like he's not anywhere in the realm. And so I'm wondering like what kind of society we've got where it's like we think that the bigger victim is the person who's doing the stabbing, then it's kind of an odd sequence. I don't know why that takes
yeah.
place.
So this happened in California years ago, where a mother was out running in the hills by herself on a trail and was attacked and killed by a mountain lion. There are mountain lions in Southern California. So obviously the animal control found and killed the mountain lion. They then found very closely there was a den of cubs that this mountain lion had felt threatened, and that's why she had attacked. Right? So there were two mountain lion cubs, and they set up a GoFundMe for the slain jogger and a GoFundMe for these mountain lion cubs. Who do you think got more donations? Right?
It's unreal, right?
People donating to the welfare of these mountain lion cubs. So, I mean, people and their money are going to, they're going to do.
Well, and then speaking of money, then speaking of money, this family has taken this money, right? He's got like $500,000 built up, and his bond is only like $250,000, which means he's only paying like $25,000 in bail to get out temporarily, and then to show up to court, and then his family takes the rest of the money and buys like a mansion.
No, they didn't buy. They're renting it. And I can see them, I can see them moving into it's in a gated community, and because this has attracted national sentiment, I'm fine with that. Right? It's a gated community. Yeah. They appear, apparently, based on other photos I've seen, the family look like they're probably well-to-do anyways, but moving into a gated community so you don't have media on your lawn or crazy people doing drive-bys, right? I think, for your personal security, I think it's justified. There are other children in the home. If they had bought the mansion, I might have been skeptical, but it's been rented is what I've seen.
Everything. Maybe they are renting it currently, but everything I'm seeing says that they're gonna.
Daily Mail says it was.
Everything I'm seeing says they're going to buy it. Yep. Like they may not have purchased it yet. Keep in mind, it takes like 30 days to close on a house, right? Like, but renting it temporarily, but the intent is to buy it. And here, the crazy thing is, like, that's a $900,000, $1 million home. They only have enough money to put a down payment on it. They don't have like the money to buy it flat out. And this is a family that, unless this GoFundMe is like a normal part of their life for the rest of their life, they probably can't afford that level of a house. So I'm wondering why they're making such a lavish and unwise purchase.
Okay, if it is a purchase,
they're going to end up.
It's true.
Yeah. I mean, like that. Like in a year, it's going to be like, oh well, I guess we don't have any more money, and we have to default on the house. And well, that was fun while it lasted, and then and meanwhile, the other guy's in jail because no matter what defense they buy him, it's not going to keep that from happening. I don't know. This whole thing strikes me as unfortunate, but it leads us into like kind of a bigger question about how race relates to crime and punishment and justice and things like that. And I'm wondering how, because there's somebody out there who's thinking, well, because of the race disparity, maybe we can claim, this is a race-based interaction, or or maybe there's going to be people on the jury who are like, what, look, I don't care what they say because this kid's had it tougher or something like that. They're going to be thinking in the back of their mind that there is a race relation to this situation. I've already seen.
If the young black kid was dead, how different would the reactions be? Would there have already been riots or protests or parades in the streets versus the white kid is dead?
Right.
Now,
and what?
I don't think it's appropriate at this point, too. I think we need to just, right now, let's see with the justice system. If we get an OJ type of thing where he gets nothing, found innocent, I can see reactions kind of like that.
And that's what I'm hoping that this doesn't turn into, because for a moment it seemed like it was gonna, it's like, and then you've got well, in any case, so let's look at what people are saying. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right. It's like Aaron, right? Sarah Hajin. What do we think about the innocent guy who got deported to the dangerous prison in El Salvador? Well, one thing that I think is very important to note is that he is probably not an innocent guy.
Innocent is a high standard, yes.
Yeah, it is a high standard. Now, to be fair, there may not be sufficient evidence to like convict him in a court of law. I don't know. But what I do know is the following. He's got an MS-13 gang tattoo on him. He has witnesses that have said that he is still a part of that gang. And the Department of Homeland Security has claimed that they have evidence of him trafficking humans. Now, I don't know what all that means, but it sounds pretty bad.
Well, here's two. Like, he was first reported to be a U.S. citizen. That is not the case, right? He entered this country illegally, right? And was going to be deported, but a judge stopped his deportation because he claimed that he was in danger from gangs back in San Salvador. And in 2011, El Salvador was really, really different than it is today. Scary place.
It's like Durham.
So he has this court paper saying from a judge that he doesn't need to be, that he can't be deported. That's different from being a U.S. citizen.
He has a paper saying he can't be deported specifically to El Salvador.
Well,
so
yes,
it's kind of interesting, because one of the interesting things about this is if he comes back, which I think he should come back, if he comes back, it's likely that they'll just deport him again, just not to El Salvador, right? So it's kind of funny that it's like we'd be getting him back to. Now, that having been said, I firmly believe that this whole thing is it's ridiculous that we could send somebody on some kind of like administrative error. I think that's ridiculous. I think when I hear those words, it sounds to me more like somebody did it accidentally on purpose. Like oops, like they were trying to get rid of this guy and they did it because they wanted to.
That's true. He did status. Now, it's been 13 or 14 years since the judge ordered that. So obviously, you can reevaluate, have a judge reevaluate that and say if based on his activities since that time, if he's been now confirmed in violation and now San Salvador can safely take him back, then so the Trump administration, I saw Carolyn Levitt report on this, feels like they're on very solid ground. And that's why there was the senator from Maryland went down to El Salvador to try to get this guy back, and he was denied entrance or meeting or anything like that. And they say, no, and whatever paperwork you need, the Department of Homeland Security will get it. This guy, not a U.S. citizen, and he's going to stay there. So maybe they sent him out there prematurely without getting everything triple stamped and double stamped, or the having something saying that the court order that had kept him in the country no longer applied. But he was not a U.S. citizen that was deported. That was the big thing that I learned when I was first told when this story first broke.
So let's talk. S1 Kalos says the conservatives are on very solid ground when the Supreme Court votes 9-0 that these deportations are not constitutional. So what you're talking about when you say the Supreme Court voted 9-0, the 9-0 vote was that this particular guy should come back.
Yeah.
Not that these deportations are not constitutional. As a matter of fact, they voted 5-4 that these deportations are in fact constitutional, and that Trump can continue to use the Alien Enemies Act of like 1702 or something, whatever. It was like 1798, I think. Yeah, but it's very old, very old. But yeah, they're constitutional. They're legal. I don't know that I like them. I think that it's kind of a cheat way up over time. I would prefer to see them go through more due process. My personal feeling on it, and I don't like that. Yeah, and I don't like that Abrego Garcia got treated this way. I don't like that. I think that if he had a sheet of paper saying don't go to El Salvador, then they shouldn't have sent him to El Salvador. That's it. Like that's end of the story. Now, let's see. I'm 100% wrong. No, I'm definitely right about the Supreme Court ruling. I'm not sure which one you're thinking of, but they voted 9-0 that Trump had to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return to the States. That was the vote. The vote that discusses deportations was 5-4 in favor of Trump.
Yeah, for the 1798 challenge, which was that was early. That was not today or this week. This was a couple weeks back.
Now that having been said, S1 Kalos, I agree with you that I don't like the Alien Enemies Act. Like it's not a law that I agree with. I think that the Alien Enemies Act actually probably should be declared unconstitutional. I think it violates the 14th Amendment. That's my personal opinion. But that having been said, that the Supreme Court does know more about this than I do, and I do defer to their judgment at times. This is a situation where I'm disappointed at the judgment, but I also at the same time realize that it is probably best for the nation temporarily. So it's kind of a weird balance, it's like, because you got to understand that there's so many criminals have been and gang members and terrorists have built up in the nation because we've had our wide open borders policy, that we kind of have to use a drastic measure to get to move them all out fast enough, right? Like if there was only 20 of them, total, then like, sure, put them in court. It takes, it's only 20 court cases, no biggie, right? But it's like hundreds and thousands that are in. We got in over our head, and it's, I don't like the way that Trump is doing it. I don't, but I also don't know of a good alternative. I mean, can you think of a good alternative? Very, very quickly. I don't have a good answer. And no, yeah, you're S1 Kayla says, if you think the Constitution doesn't protect green card and visa holders, you're wild. I do think that it does. I think that the 14th Amendment and the 5th Amendment are very clear. And the 14th Amendment, as written, protects all of those people. But yeah, here's the other question. I don't understand why we can't just get this guy back. I don't know why El Salvador is giving us any trouble with it. Like, why would Trump not just be able to just call out and be like, hey, buddy, you're doing us a favor. I'm doing you a favor. I'm sending you tons of money. We need one.
Did you watch his interview? He came to the Oval Office, right? That was great, and he sees like El Salvador is a great place, and people are starting to invest. How Costa Rica, people are moving to Costa Rica. People can now move to El Salvador because the crime has dropped. He says this is how we get career criminal, how we make a country livable, how we liberate people. You get crime off the street, it liberates people. These criminal gangs are a force of oppression, right? They're not, and right, we need to use due process. Everybody in this country, green card holders, permanent residents, U.S. citizens are entitled to due process. But when they find that they have violated the terms of your green card can be revoked. And once your green card is revoked, like you are on sandy foundation. You are on a sandy foundation.
Yeah, but to be fair, and then this is where I side on Kalos's side of things, is because to revoke a green card should take some level of due process. You should be able to be in front of a court. The court should be like, this is why it's being revoked. This is the evidence presented against you. And I mean, I think it should be a relatively easy process. And in a situation like this, where we have so many like gang members in that have come over to America, I feel like they should appoint like a special like tribunal jury or something like that. Somebody who can like process these really quickly. That would be a way to assuage the due process.
You mentioned how you wanted a better system. I think the Trump, by making these very public, and even if they have to bring Mr. Garcia back, they send this message that they're going after these people and They will send them to El Salvador. So if there are gang members here illegally that don't want to end up in that El Salvador prison, they might self-deport to a country that's maybe Canada or someplace that's a little more to their liking, right? So, you know, it has a chilling effect. We've had a lot fewer illegal immigrants trying to cross the border, right? People self-deporting, because even though the number of deportations are far below what they were under Obama or under the first Trump administration, by making them very public, making them big things, even going to court or having the media report on this, has sent a very chilling message. People that feel they're at risk, they don't want to be in that prison. It looks like a bad place. They're like, maybe I'll go chill in somewhere else, Mexico or
I thought it was
Canada.
funny when Kristi Noem did that thing where she went down there, which is, well, I don't even know what she's doing. It's like, I don't know, half of the things that she does, it's like a little like caricature of her, you know, going to, but she's down there and everybody else is like standing behind her, like looking at her. It's kind of creepy. Like they're just staring at the camera. I'm like, how did you get them all to just stand up like that? That's like it's a jail full of guys that probably don't want to have their picture taken and stuff, but they're all like standing up and smiling. I mean, like, what do they threaten with? That's terrible. That jail, it scares me. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. So in any case, yeah. So let's see what Kayla says. When did the term enemy evolve into being your neighbors and affecting citizens? So it doesn't affect citizens, right? These are unless they're declared domestic terrorists. I don't know, but yeah, it definitely involves foreign illegal immigrants or legal, and be somebody who's not a United States citizen and declared a terrorist, or somebody who is involved in a direct incursion with the United States. Now, I don't know. It's kind of a weird use of that law. We could talk about it for a minute. I think that warfare has shifted so much over the last couple hundred years. Like we've talked about, guys standing in a line with guns and pointing at war, nice, neat little uniforms, bright colored uniforms, so everybody knew whose team you were on. Like it was like wearing jerseys for like a hockey game or something. Like everybody.
We want you to clap. Stand out, no camouflage.
Right. And like, but now that's not how it goes. I mean, everything is urban warfare. Everything is like terrorists, you know, doing a pipe bomb in a car or something like that. That's the new enemy. That's the new way of warfare. And drones and stuff like that. Like you don't see them coming. You're not going to have a bunch of guys in a row in a uniform. And as a consequence, the laws have to adapt for that usage, right?
No.
And
I just want to interject a little bit. I think a lot of America doesn't really have a lot of experience with street gangs, especially South American or Mexican gangs. I can speak a little bit from experience. I grew up in East Los Angeles, right?
Sorry to hear that.
Right? There were gang members that I went to public school in East Los Angeles, right? So there were street gang members in my school. They weren't running drugs as far as I know, so there wasn't the violence that comes with protecting drug territory. The money runs with that. Sure. But there was definitely and there was fisticuffs. I got in some fights. I got jumped by some Mexicans once during PE class or whatever.
Thank you, Tanya. You're my hero.
I was just gonna say, so a lot of Americans don't understand gangs because they haven't lived with them. There are criminal gang task force who are specially trained for handling this. It is a different type of policing. It is a different type than other ones. So bringing in people that have that expertise, ideally, I hope, is what ICE and the Trump administration have done to help identify this matter, specifically anti-gangs specialist units. Anyway.
Yeah, so Tanya says BPS Slick works in immigration. So yeah, I do agree that would be the perfect person to ask. So let's see. My question to BPS Slick would be, under what circumstances do you think it would be okay to revoke some immigration status? Like, so if somebody's here on a visa or temporary protection or something, anything, under what circumstances do you think it would be appropriate? Yeah, like under what circumstances would you say? Because a lot of people here, when they come, one of the problems is they come here and they're here on false pretenses, right? Like they have a like Mahmoud Khalil, he has a student visa, but he lied on his student visa, and he's actively involved in terrorist activity and giving them material support. So I'm wondering what I know the law has a lot of a lot of 8 U.S. Code 1227, I think, is revocation, deportation. Let's see. Yeah, but ICE and BP definitely know about gangs. I know. I think that it's kind of interesting because some of these laws conflict, right? One of the problems is like the 14th Amendment basically says that they're supposed to have the exact same rights as a citizen.
Well, right.
And
yeah. Sorry, go on.
I'm going to be honest. I think that's a mistake. I think that they should have the same rights with regard to like life, liberty, and property, but not necessarily the same rights with regard to residence, right? So like they should be able to keep their material property, even if it's like let's say they own a home, right? They should be able to like liquidate that and keep that and take that with wherever they go. But the residence, I don't think because otherwise, why even become a citizen if you have all of the rights and all of the privileges, right? Some of these guys, a lot of these people are voting.
and
so it's like,
yeah.
And then you don't have to pay taxes. It's like you're getting all the bonuses and none of the penalties. It's like, why would anybody ever be a citizen? So I think the 14th Amendment might even be a mistake to an extent. Yes, I don't know. BP, did you hear the question? My question is, what do you think it is the appropriate level of I guess dissidence? Like what's the appropriate level of like bad acting, malacting in a nation before we say, hey, look, your temporary visa or your permanent, even your permanent residency is revoked? Like what's the level do you think is necessary?
I mean, one of the things here is if you had applied, right, say that Mr. Garcia had applied from his country and had been granted the right to immigrate here, right? Or anybody had immigrated here appropriately, had reported at customs, declared themselves, gone through the process and gotten this. No, they came here illegally. When they got picked up after arriving here, then they said, oh, I want asylum, right? And they'd been granted temporary asylum. And so, but at the end, the Trump administration says if the way you entered this country originally was without application at all, if you came into this country illegally, you crossed the border without going through customs, that in and of itself, we're going to be very skeptical of why you're here, and try to, if there's other factors that for why you're not here, like potentially being a part of gang or terrorist activities, is going to get you on a fast track out of town.
Right. So yeah, there's BPS says there's a list of crimes of moral turpitude. I know that 8 U.S. Code 1227 involves what it requires to deport someone, and most of those are like, if you violate any of the terms of your residency here, you're gone. But then the question becomes, it's like, so then you've got the 14th Amendment on the other side of that, stating like, well, no, they have to go through this due process because of the Fifth Amendment. And so it's like, it's almost like they're conflicting. It's almost like they're butting heads. So BPS Slick says you lose status if you violate the conditions of that visa, for example. Yeah. And that's what the code says. That's what the law says. So BPS, do you think that the 14th Amendment between the 14th Amendment and the Fifth Amendment, between everybody having the same rights and one of those rights being due process, do you think that overrules some of those laws for visa revocation, for like getting people? Because my question is, like, a lot of these guys, they could say you violated your the terms of your visa, but then the person could say, no, I didn't. And then I think at that point, don't you have to go through this like lengthy process to like prove that they did? That would be my question. And I don't know the answer.
Yeah, and it's one thing if you get a green card, if they get a permanent resident status, or if it's just a temporary asylum status. Is that different from permanent resident? Right? If a judge says, all right, we're just going to grant you asylum to not be deported to this, and you have a court date and you didn't show up or something like that, or they never had a court date.
So wait, BPS, you're saying that they only get due process if they're a permanent resident, but they don't if they are here on a temporary visa, for example? And why would a temporary visa be different? I thought that the 14th Amendment protected those too, but I'm not sure. I don't, you're the expert. Correct to which part?
Lawful permanent resident, or what's the LA? What does LA stand for?
Yeah, lawfully admitted permanent resident, I think.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah, I'm not I'm not an immigration master, but yeah. So I thought that. So non-resident visa. Okay, all right. So just non-resident. But then with the case like Mahmoud Khalil, who was granted permanent residence,
student visa. He wasn't on a student visa. Okay.
So he started as a student visa, and then they gave him a permanent residency, which they did it fast. They definitely like fast tracked it, because he like came in, he had like a student visa. He wasn't even going to class. Did you know that? Like he wasn't even in school. He was just like living there.
Oh, okay. He wasn't enrolled. Yeah. Okay.
This is what I don't understand about the massive immigration that's happening. Is like it's obvious that someone is doing this to purposefully move a mass of people into the nation, because otherwise, like, why would we give somebody a student visa if they're not actually going to school? And then why would we upgrade them to permanent resident if they're busy, like, they're literally calling for the eradication of Western civilization? So I'm trying to figure out, like, why did we ever give him either of those? Like maybe the first one I could see, like maybe he came in on a student visa and lied, right? Like maybe he's like, hey, I was admitted to Columbia. I'm going to go to Columbia. But then the moment he gets there, like drops all of his classes. Right? Okay. I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. School is tough in America, man.
I got to read a lot.
After that, then wouldn't somebody immediately contact you after like a month after you dropped your classes and say, by the way, you're no longer eligible because you were here on a student visa. Bye-bye now. Like, what are we doing? I can't figure.
The Biden administration was a zero deportation. They weren't interested in pursuing anything. So that was the climate that they were under. So they thought essentially, all right, nobody's going to deport us. We can do whatever we want. And the Trump administration is very different, right? If you're going to advocate for Hamas and you're not a U.S. citizen, well, we're going to start taking issue with that.
And see, this is where, understand this, for a lot of these items, I'm basically a centrist, right? So like, I see what Biden did, and it was basically like open season, open borders, and that's ridiculous to me. But I see what Trump is doing, and it's like deporting people without due process also seems ridiculous to me. And I feel like there's a happy medium in the middle where we give them due process, but we move them along when they're not supposed to be in the nation. And if they are supposed to be here, like, tough, like we shouldn't deport them. There are definitely some people who I feel are contributing and could be made into citizens if they so desire. But I think that's important to me too. They should desire to be citizens if they're going to be here, in the nation. If they're trying to like work towards something, I'm happy with that. But if they're here and they're just like never want to be a citizen, they just want to like kind of use up America for all of its goodies, like, let's see what BPS Click says. He shouldn't have been given a green card. if you're out of status, and he was, you can't change status. Columbia isn't calling anyone at USCIS when he drops. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. So that makes sense why he wouldn't. But you would think that it would be like an automatic thing, like they would have it in the. It's probably hard to implement, but like I know that if, for example, I dropped classes and I was on, say, a Stafford loan or something like that, they call me up real quick and tell me that I owe them money, right? Like there's people that get these automatic notifications. I think that this should be one of them where they, if the guy drops classes or something, is no longer fulfilling his duties, that it should like ping a system, and the system should be like, oh, by the way, these guys for this quarter are out of reg or whatever. And I don't know.
I had a friend in college who was an illegal immigrant. She was from Canada, and her visa had expired in the middle of the semester. It was a student visa, and she was in classes, and nobody came after her. And then at Christmas break, she went up and renewed her visa. She just didn't want to take the time to go to the Canadian consulate, which was 3 states away from where I was, and nobody acted. But she was enrolled in classes. If he's not enrolled in classes and is deliberately agitating all this, yeah, I mean he's really got no leg to stand. He's on. He is here. He is a house guest that is, standing on the good grace of his host. And his host has changed temperament.
And so, yeah, Kayla, S1 Kayla says that there's a lot of people that paid into Social Security who are non-residents. And that is true, right? They did pay into Social Security. But actually, S1 Kayla, this is one of the things that Elon Musk just found out about, is that you actually can get Social Security benefits without citizenship. And not only can you, but a lot of people have been doing it. What they've been doing is with the CBP1 app, they've been like giving them temporary legal status, and then people go and get a Social Security number with which they can get Social Security. Absolutely. 100% have been. And not only that, they have even voted. Then this is what I don't know I guess you haven't been paying attention to the most recent stuff from Doge, but these people received like over $2.1 million in like Social Security benefits, in Medicaid, Medicare, and SNAP. They were getting, they were spending money, by going to the emergency room for free. They were getting extra benefits and they were registering to vote with those Social Security numbers and voting. And Elon Musk just referred like thousands of people to the Department of Justice because they were voting illegally as non-citizens with these Social Security numbers. Elon Musk, he said he's a liar.
They should have. Well, yeah, that'll go before.
Elon Musk, you should watch him. I think you should watch him. Like, listen to some of his interviews. He is not a liar. He makes mistakes sometimes, but he's not a liar. You should watch him, watch his body language, look at the way he talks, read him like you would at a poker table. He doesn't need to scam anyone, right? He's the richest man on earth. He doesn't need to do anything.
He makes real cars. He's doing this that have to get improved upon. Yes. Are his cars perfect? No. But they're not a scam. They're not a scam. They're real products.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so the way he originally got into Tesla, he definitely made a smart business play. That's correct. It was kind of tricky. But the other thing too is you should S1 Kalos, I encourage you to look at a lot of the fact checks for Elon Musk, because understand that he's in the limelight, right? He has got the floodlights on him day in and day out. And so number one,
the media
media holds him accountable like crazy, especially the left-wing media holds him accountable like crazy. So if he presents an item and the left-wing media doesn't counter it, by the way, that means it's true, right? Because they don't have anything to counter, right? If they do counter it, I encourage you to watch a lot of the fact checks, read a lot of the fact checks, because a lot of the fact checks are like only partial counters, right? For example, Elon Musk will say, hey, we just saved $300 million in grants. And then Snopes will go back behind him and it's like, actually, you only saved 170 million because part of this was paid already. So it's like false. Somebody confirmed part of it, right? Like for the people were getting Social Security checks sent to people that were dead, right? People that like were 140 years old, 150 years old, 170 years old, and he's people are like, oh, that's false. It's got to be false, right? Elon Musk is a scammer. But then a fact check came by, and it's like, actually, no. Many of these checks were going out. Some of them weren't. Some of them had stopped when the person was dead, and they were informed of the fact that they were dead. But yeah, there have been plenty of people that have been arrested over this. And keep in mind, a lot of these cases are fraud cases, right? So a lot of time there's not a person that is present to be arrested, right? If this is a capable fraud operator, he's not going to be, he or she is not going to be around to be arrested when someone shows up and says, hey, you've been collecting, Social Security checks. A lot of the time it's like false IDs, false locations, and everything is like, double, triple. There's not going to be a way to arrest that person. But a lot of the people that were voting as non-citizens, they're getting arrested. So that's going to happen right now. There's nothing that I don't understand how people can be in this mind frame where like literally every single thing that Elon Musk says is false. You would have to, I don't know, that's a very, very strong like cognitive dissonance. He would have to be right occasionally on accident. Like even if he was trying to mess up, he would have to be right occasionally on accident. So S1 Kalos, one example of Doge proven fraud is the one I just mentioned, the people that were voting as non-citizens.
Yeah.
And it takes time. It's not
right.
like not like Elon Musk announces it and then, they just like walk over to that person's house and grab them. Like these people are like, usually when you're committing fraud, you're hiding. Usually you're not staying where you're supposed to. You're collecting checks in places that are like easy to like go in and snatch the money and then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, Doge is just an auditor. They just report these things. They hand that stuff over to the Department of Treasury. Department of Treasury makes changes. They hand other fraud over to the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice double checks it.
Uh-oh, Christian just went on. Man, we've had so many technical issues. But anyway, so Doge, for those of you who are not familiar with Doge is just the Department of Government Efficiency. All it is an audit team. They go into each and every department and audit stuff and then present their findings to either the president or, the department, the Secretary of State or the Secretary of Defense or whoever they're auditing for, right? And a lot of their audits are, it's known information. It's funny that so many people challenge a lot of Elon Musk's findings when the inspector generals that were in place acknowledge at least half of the things that he's finding, right? And so there's really not even much argument over it. The only difference is Elon Musk went that next level. He went to that next step and said, in addition to finding all this stuff, I found this much more and some crazy things in your system. And here it is, Mr. President. So, all right. So S1, if you don't challenge his findings, what exactly are you challenging? Maybe you can explain that to me. All right. You're saying that it's minimal at best, and the cost of hacksawing benefits and lunches for mid. So, I think he's already saved about $200 billion. I don't know about you, but that seems pretty juicy to me. I'd love to have $200 billion in my pocket. Somebody told me once that you could feed the entire nation for 20 billion and you could house them for 50. So 200 billion is actually enough to and house them. I mean, that's not nothing. That's in any case, you guys have been amazing. Guys, before I go, please hit like, please hit share, please subscribe. please tell everybody that we're doing this every Wednesday, every Saturday. The Saturday may be a little bit later, I don't know, but I will let you know as soon as I know. I have an event that I'm going to try to hit on Saturday that may push it back an hour, but I'm going to try to keep it on time, but we'll see. In any case, thank you so much for everything, guys. You guys were awesome, and we'll catch you next time on Common Mansplaining.